Hello then folks, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Ben. Football Manager 2023 has been announced as a Football Manager content creator. That's right, I still am. Let's talk through some of the things you want to see in the game. So what did I do? I asked on Twitter. I'm going to make a Football Manager video today based on the video game Football Manager and react and discuss some of those features. I tweeted that out, many of you replied. So let's talk through some of those features and decide if they're good ideas or bad ideas. There's a mixture. It's good to be back. If you'd like to see my feature requests and ideas for FM23, if we get to 1,000 likes in this video, we'll come back. You come back hot. I'll do that over the weekend, and you can see it soon. I don't want to upset Football Manager. I don't think they're going to like some of my suggestions. Sure, it'll be fine. Sure, it'll be fine. And then, of course, hopefully, over the next couple of weeks, Football Manager will announce what they're actually putting into the game, and we'll see if we were correct or very wrong. We're going to find out together. First up, we had Ali messaging. In a set-piece routine, I want to be able to put a priority list for each position. On corners, I want to put my 6'5" centre-back at the near post every time, even if I happen to play them as a DM. For this one game, it doesn't make sense that the starting position affects the set-piece position. Yes. Now, this is something a lot of people want, and I think I myself want this too. Something done with set pieces. I think if you just had like position priority and then the player priority as sort of, if you're basing it on height, that's fine, but you could set that to be a player list out of your entire squad, right? So if you've got one guy who's 6'7" and he happens to be playing in that game, he's got good jumping reach, right, good heading, of course you want him at the front post or wherever you're aiming corners. Always aim at the front post, and you can put them there every single time, and that would be a better way and a better system, because sometimes, especially mid-game, if you're changing around players and putting them in different positions, sometimes you end up with a 5'6" creative midfielder as your target for corners, and he's not going to win them against anyone, so it's pointless. This from Ali, yes. It's a strong start from Twitter, so feel free to come and join me on Twitter at DoctorBenjy over there. Come on, link in the description. And speaking of which, actually, you're only one feature in, but I'm doing a giveaway for FM23 as ever. You can come get involved. As well as that, I've got a code with Fanatical. You can get the game for just over £32, which is of course cheaper than Steam, cheaper than many other code sites that exist as well, and it helps me out as a creator. So links to that, use code FM23Benjy over at Fanatical for loads of percents off, and you get the game slightly cheaper. God, we are coming back hot today, aren't we? All sorts of announcements. Yes, I'll be doing a beta save. Yes, I'll be doing a main save, just to clear that up. Next up, we had Gareth, who said better scaling of sponsorships, etc. Left that a bit vague there, Gareth, if you don't mind me saying so. I've been watching Second Yellow Card streams. Everyone should. Despite Treaty United winning the Champions League, they still don't make any money through sponsorships. This, to a lesser extent, also affects my self-managing in the Eredivisie. I think long-term saves are really affected by this. Short-term saves, not so much, especially if you're taking over big clubs. But you're right, if you're building up a team from the bottom to the top, this is a continual issue for a lot of people. I think it affects all sorts of finances as well. Sometimes even like season tickets can be affected. Again, if you're trying to build a stadium, that takes a little bit longer, and that's slightly more realistic. But sponsorships, I'm with you. I think there would be sponsors. We see the way the world is right now. People are very keen to jump on things, especially things that are successful. Football clubs in this instance, and you would see big sponsors. I'd love it if randomly you saw a big sponsor come in just for the first season you're in the Champions League, and of course if you sustain that, maybe they continue the sponsorship, but I'd like to see some of those sort of one-off things. I guess it's all based on reputation, and if you can build that up over time, and they're trying to keep it realistic, but sometimes I want the game to be a bit more fun, and things like this would encourage that. It would also, if the AI had the same thing happen to them, that could create some really interesting scenarios. So give it a go, Football Manager, please. Thank you, Gareth. Good suggestion. We're 2 for 2 here. I didn't, when I tweeted this out, I didn't plan for you to, they're all to be good suggestions. Now there's a theme here. Sean's come in. Thank you, Sean. Overhaul set pieces. Let me set up multiple set piece scenarios, set piece coaches, which is adding on to the previous point made, and set piece feedback as well, which you can kind of get. You can see how many corners were successful, things like this. I would love to see a graphic of my last 20 corners and see if they were cleared, claimed by goalkeeper, scored, etc. There isn't anything like this in the data analysis at the moment, and obviously the data hub was brought in last year. I think it can be fleshed out a lot more. We'll potentially talk about that in an upcoming video I might do. But yeah, this is a good thing. Like, set piece coaches are definitely a thing in football now. Set piece scenarios as well. I think having different set pieces for different points in games would be really handy as well. Like, say if you're in the last 20 minutes and you're winning by multiple goals, to set up a set piece for that example, and then have different ones. Maybe you commit more players early in a game. I'm with him on that as well. And the set piece feedback, sure, more data the better. I'm on board, Sean. So yeah, expanding on the set piece point even more. People really want set pieces to be improved this year. One thing I will say on set pieces very briefly is they don't want to make them too good. And that's, again, we'll discuss that in greater length at another point. Now, the realist of Regions kids. Now, I know this fellow, he streams as well. I want FIFA graphics, but he's done it in some sort of like sarcastic, memey text. I don't know how many other people would have mentioned graphics. I've given myself a selection of tweets, and I've not looked through all of them in total detail, so I'll be interested to see, but I want FIFA graphics. Do you know what? It's a good suggestion, even if it's sarcastic. We will talk about it if 1,000 likes, and it's coming soon in detail. More detail than the current match engine, graphics engine, the engine. Okay, Sai is up next. To make some, brackets, transfers a lot more harder and complex to complete, maybe get the agent more involved, have image rights be a problem. That might be a licensing issue, but still, I like the suggestion. Kind of like what we see when one big name moves clubs. Of course, the only thing we see at the moment in that is that a player sometimes increases shirt sales, so that is kind of weighing into image rights, but it's not the same in terms of contracts. I think to make contracts and transfers a little bit harder and a bit more complex, you don't want to be in too many, and then to make it a little bit needy, I think would be the problem. But ultimately, yeah, I think you could do more. I think approaching agents as a point of principle every single time, I don't know how often you would go straight into a club and ask a player. I feel like you should have to go through agents. Again, that might make it a little bit fiddly and a little bit wordy, but I think for some clubs especially, transfers are too easy. Maybe for the big clubs in world football, especially Premier League clubs, that's the case. So we can't really change that. But thank you, Si. Good suggestion. Again, these are too good. All right, Pubsters come in. Partner clubs as affiliates. Now this is interesting. I want to see clubs that have tycoon takeovers be able to buy other clubs in other countries to build a group of clubs similar to the City Group. It's more of an evolution on affiliates, but building that into a club vision would be interesting. That would be really interesting to see how those clubs would then work with each other. Things like loans and friendlies and tournaments that could come about in the game outside of things that exist in real life. And of course, the old classic, right? Licensing. Would you be able to sync clubs up in that way? Would you be able to build clubs up from lower reaches? I kind of like that. Like, new clubs are built and formed all the time, but not in Football Manager. It's very much a game of teams that are currently built. I would kind of love the idea that teams could start at lower levels and build their way up as new teams. Probably should have kept this for my own video. But yeah, I kind of like the idea of that. Shout out to Hashtag United, of course, who are the most popular club doing that right now. I'm sure there are many others around the world, but I would love to see that be a thing more. And this idea of having club affiliates or partner clubs affiliates be more of that would maybe play in as well. I quite like the affiliate system as it is in Football Manager. It's not too complex, it's not too detailed, but this would be a way of doing just that. So thank you, Pumpster. Again, another good suggestion. Really, it speaks to the people that follow me on Twitter, so fair enough. All right, Harriet's Introvert, Gambling Blues has put realistically. Were there some unrealistics? I suspect there were somewhere. Detailed stats from previous seasons being available all through the transfer window rather than getting wiped after the season ticks over. This is one of my biggest pet peeves in Football Manager, so I co-sign this immediately. The fact that I lose all player data from previous seasons, I know it has to go somewhere and file sizes would be bigger. Give me the option, if my computer can handle it, that I can tick a box that says keep data on this player. Like, I'd love it on sort of all of my players to be able to keep data season on season, to look at that and maybe assess things and see improvements in players. That's a big part of it, right? History of how you find players. First identified by, I don't think that's as good. Finally, a bad suggestion, but the first one was made up for it. Different startup options, seed top six leagues with sugar daddies randomly. I've always been a believer that scenario-based Football Manager, if they could get it past licensing again, would be amazing. If you could go into game worlds where some of the clubs are given different attributes and different changes and basically randomized, I kind of like the idea of going into a completely new, like the starting teams would be the same, but like imagine an ownership randomizer. Oh, I know, I shouldn't come up with these ideas. They're too good. That would be interesting. I like the idea of that, even though I don't think it would ever happen. I do like the idea of it. All right, Dan's come in with he said a small thing, but all small things can be great too, Dan. Don't look down. When partaking in international football, I would like to be able to rest players. If they're with us for a tournament, why can't I rest them? I don't know. International football needs a big sort of change, I think, and I've seen lots of people talk about it. I think Lelujo mentioned it in one of his videos, that this is a World Cup year. If you're going to do anything with international football, I know you don't have the license for the World Cup, we don't think, then now is maybe the time to make that better. Maybe not enough people play it for it to matter. Have we ever thought about that? Maybe that's it. But I don't know you, I like getting offered 6 international jobs post-tournament. That's always fun. I turn them all down, but I like being offered them. And if international football was better, would I take them? Yeah, probably. FM Ramblers come in. Such a simple one. I'll be the judge of that, FM Rambler. From me, but the ability to go ahead and fund your own coaching courses. If the club rejects the idea, what's the point showing our career earnings if we can't use it in some way? Well, there's a whole thing about career earnings and wages for a manager. Showing them, I guess, is just the point of, well, look what I've done. In the same way that look how much the values of the players I've signed, right? That could be included in that as well. Ultimately, and this might be news to some people, your wage in Football Manager dictates how safe you are in the job. If they have to terminate your contract and it's going to cost that club a lot of money, you're not as disposable in the managerial position. Of course, that matters a lot more in the lower leagues. If you're Chelsea, it doesn't matter. Thomas Tuchel, see you soon. Probably at PSG again. So yeah, there's that obviously as a factor. The way I think you would implement this, and the best way of doing it, is to fund it entirely from wages. You don't know what else you're spending it on in terms of rent and things like this. How would that affect it? But the simple way to do it would be take 10% of my wage for 12 weeks. Like, that's how I would do it. And then you would agree to that. Maybe you could structure that and pay for it. Being a lower league manager and not being able to fund coaching courses for yourself, or just not have the club accept that you want to do a coaching course, is so frustrating. So yeah, this would be a mechanic that would enable that. And I think doing something over time where it takes a little bit off your sort of earned wage, and at the same time then makes yourself a little bit more able to be sacked because they're not paying you as much. Maybe the payoff would be slightly less. You see how it all works? What are my arms doing? I love a bit of this. I'll do this all video. People wouldn't watch. All right, Pappy. It's 5 words, but it's good enough for me. New kits after every season. They can't do because of licensing, but it would be nice to be able to check. Imagine they gave you 5. A designer comes in, he's got sort of a tape measure around his neck. He goes, what do you want, mate? I've got a selection here. Here they are, modelled by your players as they walk out. Which one do I like the best? I'll go for him, please. Oh, sorry, I'm buying he already plays for me. I mean the kit. I'll take the kit. I should have been more specific. You get the gist. Yeah, simple but effective, and I'm in. All right, Brad's has come in with this one. Data hub to allow you to view your players versus players in other leagues. Shortcut buttons as well. We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, I think that as a starting point is a really good idea, to be able to contrast them against players in other leagues. Again, it's a matter of data and if the game can handle it, but let me choose. It's fine. I know some of lower end laptops would find this difficult, but if I've got the capabilities, allow it, right? And again, comparing your players to how other players do in other leagues will be massive. The data hub right now is quite restrictive in that. If you look at all the data put out by different websites, you can compare players across leagues. And while sometimes that won't be as useful because they're playing against a different caliber of player, ultimately you're giving yourself a more informed decision on the topic. So I would like that. Yeah, this is, again, you've done brilliantly here, Twitter. I can't believe how well you've done. If I'd have let YouTube do this, you guys watching this now, could have been chaos. But do let me know your features in the comment section. I'll reply to lots of them with a mark out of 10 on how good I think your feature suggestion is. Yeah, maybe out of 100. We could mix it up a little bit. Yeah, leave your best feature that you'd like to see in FM23 down below. We don't know anything yet, so strike while the iron is hot. Is that applicable here? He's also mentioned shortcut buttons. There's something I would like to do with shortcuts. You do that bar on the left-hand side where there's some space at the bottom. Pin shortcut. I've said this for a few years now. Pin shortcuts. Just a thought. Yes, Brads, I'm in. Another one about personal terms with the player, with fees agreed and things like that, transfer stuff. Yeah, again, it goes back to the transfer stuff before. Does it get a bit needy having to do that every single time? Maybe. All right, the final one we're going to go with in this video is Glenn Liddell, who said an end to the silly interactions with players, i.e. upsetting the whole squad, just by encouraging them. In game, of course, if you do a shout and you encourage and it goes wrong, it's a disaster. This would be a way to counter that, and I'm very much on board. Yes, Glenn, let's fix shouts in football. Hashtag fix the shouts in Football Manager, please. Thank you to Glenn. Thanks to everyone that put in suggestions. There were over 200 of them, so we can't go through all of them in this one video. But again, if you'd like to see me talk about the things I would like to see at FM23, then yeah, get in on the likes, and there'll be a video of that shortly to come very, very soon. I've got lots of thoughts. Okay, there'll be lots of FM content, of course, on this channel. I'll be reviewing all of the news as it releases in the next couple of days. Of course, the release was sort of soft launched because of the death of the Queen, so they were a little bit quieter on that, and then they announced it all a little bit later on. But I'll be covering everything, so make sure you subscribe, make sure you like the video, and I'll see you soon. Again, codes to everything and all the other information in the description down below, and I'll see you soon. It's good to be back. Football Manager returns to the channel, so I've not retired. Don't worry, we're back for more.